reprise de débat. Resuming debate, l'honorable député.
The honourable member for Abitibi-Témiscamingue. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I'm pleased to rise and speak today to this bill, which was introduced by my colleague, the member for Burnaby South. This is a very important issue for me because I think that we need more women in politics. I just want to give you a little bit of historical context about my riding. It was only in the 28th Canadian election in 1968 that we had the first woman candidate, Aurore Charon-Labrie, in my riding of Abitibi-Témiscamingue. In 2011, I was the first woman to be elected to the 41st Parliament in my region, in my riding. Unfortunately, we only had one member elected to the provincial assembly as well. So I was able to increase the numbers of local representatives. Now, there has been quite a major change in the electoral map since 2004. So before 1968, there were no women candidates, and in 2011, there were more, and in 2015 we had 50% of the candidates that were women. And now myself and the next candidate who was a woman, managed to get well over 50% of the votes. In 2015, women got more than 70% of the votes that were cast in Abitibi-Témiscamingue. So it took time to achieve that result. Now, I would like to talk a little bit about what has already been said in other remarks. We heard people talking about quotas. My colleagues who spoke that way took a very different approach. We know that there are people that want to polarize the debate, and there are parties that have over 40% of their candidates being women would be rewarded. Now, a party could choose to have no women candidates. It doesn't mean that there has to be a woman candidate, but it means that there won't be a financial reward. In fact, there will be a financial penalty. So this is something that has happened in France, where a party decided to just pay the fine and have the candidates they wanted. So we're not talking about a quota system, but really a system that would reward and motivate people. People would not be required to have female candidates for their parties, but they would have the flexibility to make the choice and be rewarded. So this is the approach we think is better than a quota system. I also heard colleagues talking about the fact that there will be electoral reform, there will be a new voting system, so that this bill is somewhat premature. Now, any new system that we might adopt would still have candidates representing different parties. So I think that we need to make sure that we keep a system where we encourage parties to have female candidates. So regardless of what new system we might adopt, that is still a relevant principle. I would now like to talk about something that I think is a very interesting aspect of the whole issue. I was the president of an association and worked with colleagues from other countries, including Rwanda, which is the first country to have more than 50% representation by women in their parliament. 64% of the seats in their legislature are women. And I just want to read something that was said about this.
Rwandan parliamentary election Kigali, Rwanda. The 2000 Rwandan parliamentary election ushered in a record-breaking 64% of seats won by women candidates. The government of Rwanda, with the UN as a key partner, has been pursuing gender equality since 1994. The political participation of Rwandan women has been facilitated by constitutional mandate and the work of key institutions, notably the Ministry of Gender and Family Promotion, the Rwanda Women Parliamentarians Forum, National Women Council, and the Gender Monitoring Office. Rwandan women have created a remarkable political space for themselves in just 20 years. Maintenant, je pense qu'il faut...
Now, I think we need to take some time to understand this. Yes, those women probably have other concerns. They live through violence, poverty. It's probably not easy for them on a daily basis. But they decided that working on equality in their parliament was something important. They decided that if they wanted women's issues to be treated more importantly, with more priority in their parliament, they needed to take steps to put in place measures. And it worked. In a country like Rwanda, they succeeded in winning 64% of the seats. They're held by women. And people here are trying to say that it's not important, we shouldn't be concerned about that or take action when we're in Canada and we have an opportunity to do so, yet Rwanda has been in a position to do it? That makes no sense. We need to take action. And there are other concrete, tangible examples where it's worked. The Rwandan parliament has changed the way that it holds debates. When I speak to Rwandan colleagues, when they come to Canada through the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, I'm very impressed each and every time. So if we take into consideration the history of Rwanda, we look at what's happened there, we can see how much progress they've made, and we can do the same. Now, in 2015, only 1/3 of candidates in the election were women. In 98 ridings, there were no female candidates for the three main parties. Now, the NDP has a tangible approach to bring out women. We had 43% female candidates compared to 31% in the Liberal Party and 20% in the Conservative Party. Now, the reason why I point that out is that at the current rate, if we don't take steps to develop parity, we might only achieve it in 60 years, in 2075. And even there's no guarantee. Can we really afford to wait another 60 years to achieve parity when we know that a country like Rwanda was able to do so in 20 years? I think that's ridiculous. So my colleague has a bill that is an attractive one. It contains options, and I think that it's a good idea to send the bill to committee. If people have suggestions to improve it, I'm sure that my colleague is perfectly open to suggestions because he's so easy to talk to. If anyone has any questions, go and talk to him. He's open to discussion. But I honestly think that if we wanted to avoid waiting another 60 years for parity, we need to send this bill to parity. Women have waited long enough, and we have tangible evidence that we can take action. Thank you.